2002 was a weird year for WWE. The Attitude Era felt like it was done, so the company started to search for what the next wave of success was going to be. Ruthless Aggression was coming, but that was a bit forced too. It was an interesting time. Let's not pretend there weren't some highlights, because there most definitely were, but we also saw some cracks in the armor, and that is what we are going to talk about today. Try and figure out what the flub was going on. So I am Simon Miller, this is WWE in 2002, and when things went weird. Number 10, that tag match, which amazingly still gets talked about today. I saw a Reddit thread on it recently. It's one of those deep cuts that every now and then finds a new wave of views. Before we begin, let's make sure we underline how important Trish Stratus was to women's wrestling in WWE. The fact she was able to do what she did in the early 2000s was ridiculous. The obstacles were stacked against her. On the 8th of July Raw, however, she teamed with Bradshaw to take on Jackie Gader and Chris Nowinski. Let's just try and keep this as simple as possible. It was not good. You do have to feel for Gader, who took the majority of the blame, but what the flub did WWE expect? She was rushed into the ring like so many people were during this period, so of course it went bad. It's a television match on Raw. Millions of people were watching. Why do we have training? Trish was clearly annoyed. I mean, just look at her face and sure, every move she tried just totally fell apart, and again, Stratus was trying to show people what women's wrestling could be. This was the total opposite. We don't need to take shots because Jackie will have known this too, but yes, if you watch this today, you will be surprised. It just doesn't work, as Bradshaw and Nowinski sort of look on in horror. It also gets called one of the worst matches in Raw history. And listen, it's probably fair, but let's not pretend there aren't extenuating circumstances here. Jackie Gader needed to be given time to understand how it all works. Not thrown in the ring because you're desperate for new stars. Still, yeah, not good. Number 9, the end of Hulk Hogan in WWE. The early part of 2002 in WWE is all about Hulk Hogan. The NWO arrived at No Way Out in February, and instantly most of the audience decided they were just gonna get behind Hulk. Didn't care about WCW, they just remembered what he had done in the 80s and likely for their childhood. The highlight, of course, was his WrestleMania 18 match with The Rock, which is often cited as the best WWE bout ever. And really, if you hit that level, who even cares about the rest of the year? Most people would take that record. However, after the sheer loving for Hulkamania, Hogan went full Hogan and ensured he became the WWE champion. This felt rushed as Triple H had just won the gold, but I suppose as we've talked about, WWE needed a kick up the rear, why not give it a go? For some reason, The Undertaker was then drafted in as the heel for his next feud, and yes, this was the time where motorbikes stalled and Hulk was dragged on the floor as Taker rode off into the sunset. A lot of it was preposterous. It didn't get any better at Judgment Day either, as these two just were not on the same page. You'll likely have seen the chokeslam online at some point. I am 99% sure Hogan doesn't even leave the ground. It's essentially a big shove. The major criticism was, this was not good, it sort of felt like a WCW main event. Believe you me, that was not going to sit well with the dead man. He prided himself on his work. This wasn't it, even if it did end with a title change. You can see it for yourself now, of course, and make up your own mind. And maybe for nostalgia it works, but at the time, people were mad. This is not what they'd come to expect from the main event of WWE. Number 8, Triple H is handed the new world title. Now, did WWE do this to get heat, to use the proper term? Yes, it did. The issue is it was the wrong kind. Fans felt like the company had just taken weeks of story and flushed it down the toilet. It was the 2nd of September 2002 Raw, and yep, Eric Bischoff walked to the ring and said, as the new general manager of Raw, we need a world champion given the brand split had sent Brock Lesnar to SmackDown. He then revealed the old WCW title, which was cool, when Triple H walked to the ring, and Eric just gave it to him. It was really silly. Even if we had done a tournament with Triple H winning, at least it would have made the title feel competitive, but just to hand it over felt like it was the game's birthday. It was lazy and not realizing that we'd ignored potential. For whatever reason, WWE was just so against long-term storytelling during this period. The irony being, it was eventually Hunter who told Vince McMahon to slow down his Batista feud and do the payoff at Mania. He was right. That logic should have been pasted over the whole show. Unforgiven was around the corner as well, and do you know what happened there? The first ever Elimination Chamber match. Why the flub didn't we wait? Think how intense that stipulation would have felt then. Do you want to become the dude? Get through our new version of hell. So this really was basically a sign of things to come. Do things now as we don't trust the audience's attention span. Surprisingly, that wasn't going to help. be a huge reason ratings continued to drop. Number 7, WWE ditched the IC title. As was this. Fans love Legacy and they most definitely love the Intercontinental title. Many people saw it as the workhorse belt that had helped Bret Hart, Steve Austin and The Rock take the next step to superstardom, and then at No Mercy 2002, it was given away. Ties into what we've said, do stuff in order to get an instant reaction. What was most bizarre here is that it was knee-deep in the Kane-Triple H feud, which was terrible due to Katie Vick when, bam, it got announced that they'd fight at the pay-per-view, and the winner would not only be the world champion, but the IC belt would be incorporated into that prize, or it was dead. Most of the viewership were WWE fans. They didn't want to lose this gold. That was part of their childhood. Just felt like Vince McMahon wasn't in touch at all. It's not like Triple H addressed this either, because he was involved with more important things when, surprise, surprise, WWE just brought it back in May 2003. So even they knew this was an error. It's not good. It was not smart. Number 6, Tommy Dreamer drinks the Undertaker's tobacco. So let's do a random one that often gets lost. It was the 27th of May 2002 Raw, and for whatever reason, Tommy Dreamer was doing a gimmick where he did disgusting things. I would guess it's because Vince McMahon saw his highlight reel from ECW and totally mistook it for what it was. On this night, he confronted Biker Taker, and I suppose the dead man knew that Tommy had been doing this. Why don't we see how far he will go? So he told him to drink his cup of tobacco, which of course was also filled with his spit. To give you an idea of where we were at, Dreamer had also brushed his teeth with a dog toothbrush and drank toilet water. What the flub are we doing? So of course he did the deed here, and it was horrible. There was no payoff either. This wasn't a feud. Tommy just drank the stuff, the fans went ugh, and onwards we went. This actually makes more sense to do today thanks to social media. At least you get some shock clicks. If it was in WCW, it likely would have led to a tobacco spit on a pole match, although arguably that's better, because at least there'd then be an end to this. As it stands, nothing. And given it's now 2025, I don't think they're going to fix this anytime soon. Number 5, WWE gets the F out. Now actually the marketing campaign for this was very good. If the WWF was going to have to change their name, they could make a somewhat immature joke to make their fans laugh. It worked. The Get the F Out PR blitz made a bad situation somewhat tolerable. The reason it gets in here is because there was no need. For years, Vince McMahon had a deal with the World Wildlife Fund due to the acronym similarities. Panda people didn't care what Vince did, as long as there was no confusion between the two. Also, if the internet ever becomes a thing, just please do not register WWF.com. Guess what McMahon did almost instantly when the World Wide Web took off? That's right. All of this kicked off in the Judgment Day pay-per-view, but this was seen as a massive disaster. Fans weren't into it at all because a rebranding isn't easy. You have to totally retrain people's brains. Even today you get slip-ups. WWF comes out all of the time. You can also go back and watch the madness and see just how much TV time WWE had to dedicate to this. That wasn't ideal either. Promos became a huge advertising deal. If only we just stuck to the agreement, eh? Never mind. Number 4, Stone Cold walks out. I mean, obviously, the company's biggest star, just when this name change was happening by the way, got so sick and tired of creative, he went home, he was done. Now it is important to say Austin himself says today this was an error. He should have gone to work and talked it out. You've got to make that clear. Otherwise though, well, he did have a point. Aside from being in a nothing match at WrestleMania 18 against Scott Hall, soon after this, WWE wanted Austin to lose to Brock Lesnar in a King of the Ring qualifier. Now Brock wasn't the star he would become, but he was clearly on the radar. To tie it into earlier though, this is what I mean. We had to rush Steve Austin versus Brock on a random episode of Raw. Of course we didn't. It does seem likely there was some punishment to this because Austin had gone on to WWE show Bite This and said how terrible the in-ring stories were. That was a shoot too, brother. So when The Office found out, well, I'll let you decide. The last thing anybody wanted was to lose the rattlesnake though, and it's worse today. Steve had to retire after WrestleMania 19, meaning his comeback lasted no time at all. Well, basically, we lost a huge chunk of Austin's career because it came to a close for good. Sucked. WWE was so mad they even had other stars bury Austin on the show, including The Rock, saying much like the WWF, Stone Cold can get the F out. It felt silly because of course he was going to come back eventually. Everybody always does. Instead, WWE just ruined this man on TV. It was quite crazy to see. Number 3, the plane ride from hell. This was so bad, the Dark Side of the Ring TV show made an entire episode about it. Also means we likely don't know all of it. It's mad this came from a plane ride. The WWE team were flying back from a European show in May, however, and it turned into a nightmare. Kurt Hennig and Scott Hall got in a world of trouble and eventually left the company over it. Jim Ross seems close to breaking point when he discusses it. He was the head of talent relations. You really do have to feel sorry for the poor airline staff, with many seeking damages afterwards. And in terms of Kurt, he basically had a fight with Brock Lesnar on the plane. People said they almost crashed into the emergency door as well. I mean, can you imagine? Then there was Ric Flair, who apparently walked around naked. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? Well, I have about 32 million reasons. Now, none of this happened on screen, but it did affect things on television. People lost their jobs and some stories were changed because of it. Of course, the entire fan base didn't know about this, so you would just scratch your head watching Raw. It was totally infantile and would never happen today. And even at the first sign of trouble, it would be shot down. Thank goodness for that. This was bad. Number 2, HLA. So a few times we have mentioned that post-Attitude Era, Vince McMahon didn't know what he wanted to do. He definitely needed the numbers and business he once had, so his decision was, let's push the envelope further. That's what we need. More crazy storylines that question what we're doing. Welcome HLA. If you do not know, that does indeed stand for Hot Lesbian Action, and I guess we could stop there. Self-explanatory. In September 2002, though, WWE would literally wheel out 2 women and tell them to kiss. That was that. Did we really need this on wrestling TV? I mean, I understand that horny teenage boys are a thing, but they had options. WWE doesn't need to be the destination for everything. It was also just so embarrassing, and it soon trickled down into other stipulations. Eric Bischoff, who for some reason was all for this, told Stephanie Mann on Raw she would engage in some HLA if 3-minute warning beat Billy and Chuck. So what, we were going to force her to kiss somebody else? Well, turned out this did happen, and Stephanie made out with Rikishi dressed in drag. So they actually made it worse. It also meant that Steph thought she was going to lose, otherwise this wouldn't have been ready to go. And of course, eventually Rikishi revealed himself and booted Eric Bischoff right in the face. There was public backlash to the entire idea because it was so bad, just offensive really. WWE could not have presented this any worse. Surprise, surprise, didn't work either. It's almost like fans just wanted to watch wrestling. What a concept. Number 1. Katie Vick. Well, you must have known as soon as you saw the title. How could you not include this? It may be the worst storyline in WWE history. In short, Vince McMahon felt like the one narrative they hadn't done was necrophilia, so yep, we did that. My biggest concern is always, who was this for? Who was waiting to see Triple H pretend to hump a corpse before tuning back in? And if these humans do exist, why on earth would you want them back in the mix? Do the opposite, make sure they never return. It's only fair to say the game wanted none of it either, but yes, as he feuded with Kane, he told a story of the Big Red Machine driving home from a party drunk, crashing his car, killing his girlfriend, and then doing all of that other stuff. Do you want to know what happened to the ratings during this too? They plummeted. The word has always been when they shot the scene in the funeral parlor too, there was a legit funeral happening next door. They even asked WWE to keep the noise down. So don't worry about 2002. This is all time, and don't even watch it for intrigue. Even though it was 25 years ago, you may still question why you watch this garbage. It's the worst of the worst, and it kind of ruined Kane. What a stupid idea. Know of any other bad moments from WWE in 2002? Please do drop me a comment below before you like the video, share the video, and subscribe. You can then click the video on the screen to get even more wrestling in your life. But otherwise, my friends, I appreciate you, and I will talk to you again soon.